does somebody get into supply chain and sourcing? Is that something that you've always wanted to do, or how did you fall into that kind of line of work?
Yeah, I think it was around the time when I was finishing high school, and I actually saw a documentary about people traveling the world to find the next toys they could, buy for their retail branch. And I thought that was so cool to actually travel the world to buy toys. That's a real, job. And actually, then. I discovered how it is exactly, that it's a very good combination between analytics, because you need to analyze, the prices, and create strategies around where you want to source your products and components. And there is a big dimension as well for relationships, because you're building relationships with suppliers, and of course strategies. So for me, it was a very balanced set of skills and things I wanted to do.
So I actually have a very, I would say, shallow and limited experience when it comes to sourcing. Before I founded this recruiting kind of company that I'm running right now, I also love e-commerce a lot, and Sophie, and e-commerce D2C. I also have experience selling things on Amazon and eBay, and that just opened up the whole world of what sourcing means on the e-commerce side, right? So whether it's like consumables or physical products or even like fashion, you have to develop relationships, like you said, with suppliers all around the world, and you have to go through that process. But what's interesting about your background is you have that sourcing experience, but not so much for consumables or fashion apparel. It's more industrial, right? For industrial brands and products. And so is sourcing kind of I would say sourcing, it's the same thing, right? Even though e-commerce, industrial, it's the same kind of thesis, if you will. It's like, hey, what do we need? How do we find it? How do we get it at a very cost appropriate price, and then get that product over to our warehouse or business or facility? Is that correct?
Yeah,
On the
absolutely.
simplest term?
Yeah. If you look at everything that is surrounding you in your desk and everything, you have products that are made of components and materials. And, with globalization, there was a strategy from companies to really outsource as much as possible all those components to specialists. And so it turns out that even the simple products, they have a ton of different suppliers. And so supply chain have become very complex, fragmented across countries and companies. And every time at the manufacturing company, you need to, as you said, like define what's the need, what are the suppliers available. And so in front of a salesperson, you would have a buyer, and the buyer has to do to manage a portfolio of various commodities. So it's by industrial is really everything that surrounds surrounded us. And for example, I worked a lot with plastic, with metal, with composite parts as well, fabric, worked in the automotive industry. And so you have a large variety of components and materials there. And yeah.
Did you really enjoy having a career within that industrial kind of sector? Or did you always, like, maybe in the back of your head, oh, I like the idea of sourcing, but maybe I want to apply it to something more B2C or consumers? Or you were just really, really happy and you developed strong relationships in that side of the world?
No, I always loved it. The thing is, I think I'm an engineer at heart as well, even though my background is in business, I was very drawn to technological products. And so I started in CPG, working for a multinational that has a lot of consumer brands. But I really wanted to go towards aeronautics. So this is why I worked for Rolls-Royce jet engines, because for me, I was fascinated by aeronautics and airplanes. And then, I continued in that industry, because it's a lot of how it's made, right? Like we use a lot of products, we go on cars, but how is everything made? And so this is why I find very interesting.
Obviously, you're building a platform. I know I took a look at your website, and it seems like maybe your initial focus is for the industrial sector. Is that correct? But then it's, of course, probably part of your roadmap eventually to expand that to all industries out there, right?
Yeah, so the manufacturing industry is very large. So we assess that it's already a $114 billion market. So there is a lot of room to play. But yes, I mean, the manufacturing industry is very interesting because as you have seen, like I've worked for different types of companies, different type of industries, but they share the same pattern and the same processes. So what we are doing is really helping buyers to connect with suppliers so they can search for suppliers. And once they connect with them, they have a playground where they can exchange information in real time. And that includes, your direct suppliers, but as well tier twos and beyond. This is one thing that is very hard for manufacturing companies right now, is to understand what's beyond their tier one, so the direct supplier. And so, for example, I was talking last week with a major industrial company in Europe, and they are one of the biggest companies, and they are saying we have no clue what's beyond our direct suppliers. And so this is why it's very valuable when you have like exposure to shortages or as well environmental or social risks, to understand, okay, who are the actors on my supply chain, where are they, how can I manage and make better decisions, because there is a lot of risk with not knowing who is participating to your supply chain.
So on the simplest level, is it correct to say that you're building a marketplace product?
It's not really a marketplace because it's not transactional. When you find a supplier, to do the kind of work that manufacturers do, it's not usually a one-off. They need to install long-term relationships, and they need to exchange a very large quantity of data with them on a regular basis, right? So, but yeah, it's a collaboration platform, let's say.
Collaboration platform to make the identification and I guess the initial communications a lot easier. But then once you connect with a supplier through your platform, then is that where a lot of the collaboration, the sharing of data, the track records also happen all in one place within Raviken? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, what are some of the, can you elaborate again? Like, what are some of the things that suppliers would share, some of the data points that you can get at Raviken that is just a lot more streamlined than if someone were to go use an alternate product or an alternate means?
So for example, one use case that we see very frequently is, and it's with the shortages that happen right now, is let's say that you have a product and you have a set of components in your product. Usually you have this, list of components in a PLM software. So it's the software that engineers use to create and to track record or to track their part numbers, right? So we take this information from Arena Solution, which is one of the PLM software we integrate with, and we create a list of components that the buyer has to buy. Then they find suppliers that are known to them, where they know they can buy from, or they can have access as well to the database and find alternate suppliers. Usually what you would do if you hadn't Raviken is that you would email all of those suppliers asking them for quotes, and then wait for them to get back to you. Then you have different templates because they don't, use the same type of spreadsheets, in an attachment in the spreadsheet, and then you consolidate everything. And then you realize that, okay, you have prices that really go up and that they are very expensive, and you need to assess how it's going to impact the price of, or the cost of your overall product, right? With the chip shortage, we can see that some components, they are 5 times, 20 times what they were a couple of years ago. So you really need to assess if it's a good thing for you to buy this component from this supplier right now. And what our prospects and customers say is that they were coming back to the supplier, and then the supplier would say, well, it's too late, you took like 2-3 days to come back to me, or even more, and the inventory that I had available is gone now. And so you see, like, because of this back and forth, the fact that buyers are not able to take very fast decisions because they don't have the analytics built in, it's making them lose opportunities. So with our product, the suppliers submit quotes on the platform, and then the buyers can assess right away what's the impact on their bottom line, and take decisions and get the inventory and not miss the opportunity.
So it's a lot more than just, yes, we have your product. It's, yes, we might have products you're interested in, but this is all the information, relevant information that you need to be able to make an educated decision whether or not you want to pull the trigger with us.
That's right. Yeah.
Gotcha. That is really, really cool. When did you start Raviken?
We started in 2019.
And did
So
you
3
cold
years ago.
turkey it? Like, were you doing it on the side when you were at Fitbit, or did you stop Fitbit and you decide to just jump in all together? Like, what were the early days of Raviken? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, the idea, was lingering, and it's the fact that I came to Fitbit and spent so many hours in Excel and building models again in spreadsheets and run the analytics. And I was thinking, okay, I'm in the middle of Silicon Valley, and I'm still, wasting my time with spreadsheet, where I should actually, do strategies and work on relationships with the suppliers. Then I had this idea, but I was thinking, okay, if I have a software company, I'd better know how it works. And so this is why I decided to actually learn programming. So for 9 months, I learned programming from C, like low level, up to web frameworks, and I created a prototype. And very quickly, in a few weeks, we managed to close our first customer. So this is where we were thinking, okay, let's do it now, and this is how it started.
Yeah, what were some of maybe the pros and cons of working at a big company like Rolls-Royce versus pros and cons working at a smaller company like, for example, Fitbit?
So working in sourcing is about loving problem solving. So this is definitely something I would recommend. If you feel that problem solving is something you really like, definitely go to sourcing. Working for big corporations, I think the best strategy is to try to work with someone who's going to bring you with them, right? Something I feel is like it's easy, especially if you want to grow and be VP, for example. It's easier to just get a mentor that is able to pull you with them, right? Rather than jumping from one company to the other. That's what I would recommend. Working for big corporations is a lot of, as well, politics. Obviously, we know that working for a smaller company is more fun, but as well, other challenges.
Which of the experiences do you feel like set yourself up for the most success as a founder? Was it working at a large company or working at more fast-paced, smaller ones? Or a combination of both?
I think, yeah, I learned so many things in different environments that I would not say one experience was transformative, but something to be sure about is faster paced environment is going to put a little bit more pressure, and so you have to get out of your comfort zone. And so when you're young, I think it's definitely something you want to go towards.
I think there's no right or wrong answer there. I think optically, the fact that you're able to experience both, and Sophie, probably equally was able to provide just tremendous value and creating a foundation for you to be able to leverage and leapfrog on top of to be a successful founder. So I think that's fantastic. I think a lot of people who just flourish in fast-paced startup environments where there's a lot of chaos, a lot of speed, a lot of stress and anxiety. I think what I've heard is people who do well there can I don't want to generalize, but a lot of them can also do well if they choose to kind of become a founder, because a lot of the things that you interact with on a small team, that's what you essentially do by yourself and a founder, right? On your
Yeah.
own small team. But I think each of them, you learn a lot of different things. And it's really, really cool that you were able to start at a big company. And then each company afterwards, it's almost like you went to a smaller and smaller company and you learned a lot of different things up until that point where you decided to take the gamble and bet against yourself. So I'm actually very, very impressed with everything that you've done so far. And it's very easy as a founder to talk about your life in retrospect and then think it's like, yeah, that's the way I live my life. It's easy. But for me to hear it and talking to many other founders and people who went through the same situation, it's really fantastic. And it's certainly was very insightful to learn about a whole new industry and world through you and through Raviken.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you're, like me, we don't want the status quo. We want to find solutions to problems and bring something innovative to the market.
If there are people right now that are listening and they hope one day to fall in your shoes, to have a successful career or to be a great, successful founder, operating and scaling a fast growing team and company, what is one advice that you would give?
One advice I would say it's to be passionate, not to start the company for money, but rather really to solve a problem we are passionate about, because it's so many ups and downs that if you don't want to feel discouraged, you need to do it for a better reason than just money. So this is one first advice, and then surround yourself with the right people, because you can't build something on your own. You need to have the right partners. It's like in sourcing, right? Is you need to find the right suppliers, and because they are part of your team, and that's the same when you're an entrepreneur. Is there's nothing you can achieve alone. So find the right people to do this adventure with you.
Find the right people, be passionate, and just go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
This has certainly been a resounding theme, just getting a better understanding of your background and your career, what you've done thus far. It's very easy for someone like myself to look at your career, be like, wow, how did you get into industrial manufacturing and sourcing? And it's become very apparent that's something that you've always had a long interest and passion with. And this hasn't started 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it started way back when. And for you to be able to keep that theme across all the different jobs that you have, across all the different companies, to now becoming the founder of Raviken, where you and your team are on a great mission to attack a giant space and billions of dollars of industry. I think that's really inspiring and absolutely fantastic. And I also just want to thank you again for just sharing a little bit more about your experience firsthand on what it's like to be a founder and how you essentially built the first version of your product yourself to get your first customer. I think that's absolutely impressive as well. So I just want to thank you so much, and Sophie, for your time. And it's been really, really great to hear more about Raviken, about where the product is right now and the vision and the product, what it should become and evolve into the future. And I just wish you and your team nothing but absolute success, and excited to keep in touch and see how you guys continue to scale and absolutely crush it.